I hid this from everyone for 12 years. There are secrets we carry alone, buried so deep that not even those who sleep beside us can see them. For 12 years, I lived with something no one could know. Something that changed every minute of my life. And today, for the first time, I'm going to reveal everything. My name doesn't matter. My story does. Because maybe you're carrying something similar too. Maybe you've also learned to smile while everything crumbles inside. Maybe you've also built an entire life on top of a lie. I was 17 when it all started. It was summer. The kind of summer that sticks to your skin and makes the asphalt shine like melted glass. I was walking home from school when I felt it for the first time. A sharp pain in my chest, like someone had driven a knife between my ribs. I fell to my knees in the middle of the sidewalk. People walked by, some looked, no one stopped. Breathing became a luxury. Every attempt to draw air felt like it was tearing something inside me. I thought I was going to die there, alone, while the world kept spinning indifferent to what was happening around me. But I didn't die. I managed to drag myself home, pretended everything was fine. My mom asked if I wanted dinner. I said yes. I sat at the table, chewed food that had no taste, smiled when she told me about her day. No one noticed I was shattered. And that's when I understood something dangerous. I could hide. I could pretend. I could build a mask so perfect that not even those who loved me could see through it. In the following days, the pain returned. Always at the same time, always with the same intensity. It was as if my body had set an alarm to remind me that something was terribly wrong. I went to the doctor. Then to another. And another. Tests, X-rays, blood work. They all said the same thing: you're healthy. There's nothing wrong with you. But there was. I knew there was. The pain wasn't my imagination. The fear that woke me up every night wasn't fantasy. I started researching on my own, dove into medical forums, read scientific articles, studied symptoms. That's when I found it. A rare condition, almost invisible in common tests. Something that affected less than 1 in every 10,000 people. Something doctors rarely diagnosed because they simply weren't looking for it. The syndrome had a complicated name, full of medical terms I could barely pronounce. But what mattered was the prognosis. Without proper treatment, life expectancy was 15 to 20 years after the first symptoms. I was 17. I did the math in my head every night before sleeping. 32 years old. Maybe 37 if I was lucky. I wouldn't make it to 40. I went back to the doctors with my research. I printed articles, highlighted paragraphs, prepared arguments. They looked at me like I was a child playing doctor. One of them laughed. Said I was watching too many medical shows on TV. Another prescribed anti-anxiety medication and suggested therapy. You're too young to have real problems, they said. It's just anxiety. It's just stress. It's just your head playing tricks on you. But it wasn't. And I knew that with every fiber of my being. So I made the most dangerous decision of my life. I decided to hide it. I wouldn't tell anyone. I would live as if I was fine. I would treat what I could treat on my own. I would research, learn, become my own doctor. Because if the world didn't believe in me, I needed to believe in myself. The first years were the hardest. I learned to identify the pain triggers. Certain foods made everything worse. Stress was poison. Lack of sleep turned normal days into nightmares. I created a rigid routine, almost military-like. I woke up at the same time every day. I only ate what I knew my body could tolerate. I cut out alcohol completely. I stopped going out at night. My friends thought I'd become boring. My family thought I was too focused on my studies. Girlfriends came and went, unable to understand why I always had excuses, why I could never completely relax, why sometimes I just disappeared for days at a time. How do you explain to someone that you're dying slowly without sounding dramatic? How do you say I'm in pain without it seeming like weakness? You don't. You just smile and change the subject. I turned 18, 19, 20. Each birthday was a small secret victory. Each month that passed was proof that I was making it. I entered college. Got a job. Lived a life that from the outside looked absolutely normal. But inside, every day was a battle. There were bad moments. Moments when the pain was so intense I had to lock the bathroom door and bite a towel to keep from screaming. Moments when I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the face staring back at me, pale, with deep dark circles, aged too much for my years. Moments when I thought about telling. About calling my mom and saying everything. About making an appointment and begging for someone to really listen to me. But fear always won. Fear that they'd say again it was psychological. Fear of disappointing the people who believed I was fine. Fear that the truth would destroy the carefully constructed life I had created. I spent my 20s like this. Working, studying, pretending. I made friends who never knew who I really was. I dated people who loved a version of me that didn't completely exist. I built a career, bought an apartment, lived achievements that should have made me happy but always came with an invisible asterisk. All of this while carrying a clock marking a countdown that only I could hear. Have you ever wondered how much of your life is real and how much is performance? How many times have you smiled when you wanted to cry? How many times have you said I'm fine when you were shattered? We all do this to some degree. But imagine doing it every day, in every interaction, for 12 straight years. Imagine the weight of that. At 25, something changed. I met someone. I won't say the name, it doesn't matter. What matters is that for the first time in years I wanted to tell. I wanted to take off the mask. I wanted to be truly seen. We were together for 6 months before I gathered the courage. I chose an ordinary night, nothing special. We were on the couch watching some movie neither of us was paying attention to. I turned off the TV. I looked into this person's eyes and said the words I'd kept for almost a decade. I'm sick. Not in a way you can see, but in a way that could kill me. The reaction wasn't what I expected. There were no tears, no understanding embrace. There was silence. A long, heavy silence that filled the room like toxic smoke. Then came the questions. Why didn't you tell me before? Why did you hide it? Do you think I couldn't handle it? Don't you trust me? I tried to explain. I talked about the doctors who didn't believe me. About the fear of being seen as crazy. About the need to protect myself by building walls so high that no one could climb them. But every word I said seemed to make everything worse. At the end of that night, the person I loved looked at me and said something that haunts me to this day. I don't know who you are. 6 months together and I don't really know you. How can I love someone who's a stranger? We broke up. Not that night, but in the weeks that followed the relationship crumbled like a condemned building. I learned a cruel lesson. Secrets don't just protect you. They also keep everyone else on the outside. And once you build those walls, tearing them down can cause more damage than keeping them standing. I went back to silence. I buried everything even deeper. 12 years have passed since that first day on the sidewalk. Today I'm 29. I've survived beyond the statistics. I've learned to manage the pain in ways no doctor taught me. I've discovered that the human body is more resilient than we imagine when you really pay attention to it. But I've also discovered that living with a secret like this takes a toll that doesn't show up on any test. You become too good at hiding. So good that sometimes you yourself forget where the truth ends and the lie begins. I look back and see 12 years of a life lived in the shadows. Achievements I could never fully celebrate. Relationships that were never totally real. Conversations where I always held something back. Moments when I wanted to scream but only whispered. So why am I telling this now? Why did I decide to break the silence after so long? Because I realized something fundamental. The secret wasn't protecting me. It was killing me in a different way. Slower, quieter, but equally fatal. It was stealing not just years from my life, but the quality of those years. The real connection with other people. The possibility of being loved for who I really am, not for the mask I wear. And also because I know I'm not alone. I know there are thousands, maybe millions of people living with their own impossible secrets. Undiagnosed conditions. Invisible pains. Fears that no one else can see. All of us walking around with our perfect masks, pretending everything is fine while inside we carry entire worlds of silent suffering. This is the truth no one wants to admit. We're all broken in some way. All carrying something. The difference is that some of us have learned to hide better than others. We become masters of performance. Artists of normalcy. And in doing so we lose something essential. We lose the chance to be true. I'm not saying you need to tell everything to everyone. Some secrets exist for good reasons. But there's a difference between healthy privacy and self-imposed prison. There's a line between protecting yourself and isolating yourself. And after 12 years, I finally understand where that line is. It's at the moment when the weight of the secret becomes greater than the fear of revealing it. At the point where hiding hurts more than exposing. At the time when you realize the life you're protecting isn't worth living if you can't live it truly. Today I choose differently. I choose truth, even if imperfect. I choose vulnerability, even if scary. I choose to tell my story, not because it's special, but because it's real. And in reality there's a strength that no mask can offer. If you're hearing this and recognized yourself at any point in my journey, know that you're not alone. Whatever secret you're carrying, whatever pain you're hiding, there's someone who understands. Maybe not in the same way, but in a way close enough to matter. And maybe, just maybe, it's time for you to also consider letting a little of the mask fall. Not for everyone. Not all at once. But for someone. For one person who deserves to know who you really are. Because in the end, it's not the years that count. It's what you do with them. And living an entire life pretending to be someone you're not isn't living. It's just surviving. And we all deserve more than that.